All right, why don't we, I'm going to give everyone a little bit of an update on the format here, because this is not like a regular panel. This is a fun panel. This is a roast, all right? Everyone said very nice things about Modular so far today, but we're going to say some slightly not nice things, and then Mustafa, Nick, you're going to defend Modular and the idea. In terms of rules, so we're going to go through a couple of slides here, where one of our panelists has maybe not said such nice things about Modular on Twitter. We're going to point out some of the flaws, and then we're going to banter back and forth.
I'm sure Eric has also said some not nice things about Modular. Right, Eric?
I'm an investor in Celestia. Why would I say something bad about Celestia? Come on.
True story, I actually looked, and I could not find one bad thing that Eric had said about Modular.
That is rare.
Yeah.
Well, I have said one bad thing. You know this sort of mean, like you had one job.
Yeah.
So if you take a data availability layer, what is the one job that a data availability layer should do? What is the one job that you have?
I know where you're going with this.
Data availability.
What is the one job that you have?
To publish data.
To make data available.
See, I knew you were going. I knew where you were going with this. That's why I want to rename data availability to data publication.
Okay, so you want to rename in order
Yeah.
to not get owned by my argument. You're going to rename the whole thing?
No, because so that people like you don't get confused.
They are confused because you confused them by calling it the data availability
Well,
layer.
it wasn't me.
guys,
It was actually Vitalik that called it that.
Guys, is this the first time at a crypto conference that we've ever debated about semantics? Has that ever happened before?
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. All right, excellent.
Here we go.
Here we go. Now the roast can start.
Now we're talking.
Holy, okay.
All right, now finish these. We'll get you another one.
All right, guys. We're going to start in here with some. Well, actually, can we just do a super quick round of introductions here in the rare instance that there's someone in the audience that doesn't know? Nick, can I call on you here, Mr. Modular himself with the Modular mullet, to give us the first introduction?
I'm Nick White. I'm the COO at Celestia Labs.
I'm Eric Wall, and I'm an investor in Celestia. And
That's called a disclosure, by the way.
And I'm the co-founder of Taproot Wizards, which were responsible for the largest spam attack on Bitcoin in its history. And we're running out of space to spam, so we need more data that we can spam. So that's why I like the modular space.
I'm the co-founder and CEO of Celestia Labs.
I'm Mert. I am the chief shitposter at Solana.
That is an apt resume, because we're going to see some of your resume's best work, Mr. Chief Shitposter.
Oh, God.
And you're gonna do the lion's effort here of the criticisms of Modular, and then some of these guys are going to defend it here. And this is the same roast, the same rules as the Tom Brady roast. So everything is on the table except no jokes about Rubbercraft getting hand jobs. That is the only thing that we cannot talk about on this stage. All right, that was a little bit of a whiff. All right, we're going to get right into it here. All right.
Oh, fuck.
L2s are a scam. EVM L2s are just a scam invented by Big Etherscan to sell you more block explorers.
Do they charge for deploying more explorers?
They certainly do.
They charge.
Like
Yeah.
millions of dollars every year.
Millions,
Like that.
yeah, per L2. But
That's why Block Scout exists.
Yeah, that's why Richard Hart's Pulse chain does not have an Etherscan Explorer. They have Block Scout.
Is that true?
That is true. Yes.
Didn't Richard Hart make a lot of money?
But he's not using that money to his ecosystem.
He's buying Louis Vuitton.
That is his money now.
all right, guys.
I'm not joking.
It went to the G-Wagon and the Louis Vuitton.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, that's one use case for Hex.
I mean, I'll be impressed if a block explorer invented L2s and rollups and fraud proof and validity proof. So if that's true, I'm not even mad.
All right, Mert, say some words about L2s here. What are your thoughts on L2s?
I love them. They're the best thing that's ever happened, and it's the only way crypto can go forward. The context behind that tweet is obviously a shitpost. Actually, I was cross-posting to Farcaster, and I was like, I wonder where they will resonate more with this. And actually, the Farcaster people liked it, so...
Yeah, they're the ones paying for Etherscan.
But no, I mean, maybe, okay, let's get serious. We're not that serious, but the context was that, okay, maybe there's more apps, or there's more chains than apps in crypto. And so, okay, what's a fun way to kind of frame this? And that was it.
You're kidding me.
Is Etherscan an app?
It's not, no. Oh, well, actually, is it? Okay, are Block Explorers apps? No. Yes, no? Okay, let's do a vote. Yes? Okay, we have 4 people, I think. No? Oh, wow, okay, so.
All right.
Mert, I think you don't have to apologize. I think this tweet is 100% true. I see no lies there. No lies detected.
Yeah, exactly.
So what do we think, Mert, when we go into this future? I saw many talks that there are going to be 1 million L2s or thousands of L2s in the future. Are these things great? Is it a good way for us to be scaling the industry? Or should we be thinking in a more integrated way? What do you think?
Well, I mean, my fundamental problem has been, are we actually solving any problems with these new chains, or are we kind of just throwing them out there so we can raise a round and then upsell it by another VC in the next round, and then kind of just keep doing that circle jerk and have these tokens that don't really do anything for the chains? Or are we, can we actually solve some real problems that exist? And I mean, you can absolutely solve problems with L2s, right? For example, Solana got congested. That's why I was late, actually. It sucks. Like, you literally could not land a transaction. I couldn't, do extremely valuable things like, ape shitcoins with hats and stuff. And then, people were complaining. Actually, Nick commented on one from Vib, who is the founder of Drip, who they kind of just spam chain, NFTs on chain. And maybe the problem with, or one of the problems with an integrated chain is, like, you have to share that block space with other people who kind of shit in the public pool. But with like sovereign rollups, which I don't know if you have a tweet, but I've tweeted. I was like, if I weren't working on Solana, I'd probably do like sovereign rollups or something, because I hate other people. So I'd rather just own the block space myself. And so that's like a good use case.
Mustafa and Nick, what do you guys think about that? Are you guys fans of sovereign rollups? You like that idea?
I mean, I coined the term sovereign rollup, and I kind of regret doing so, because no one's actually read my blog post to see how I define the word sovereign rollup, and everyone has their own definition of sovereign rollup. And I have to explain to them that if you read my original blog post, the distinction between a sovereign and non-sovereign rollup is not a technical distinction. It's a social distinction. Like, it's a very minor social distinction that basically says in a sovereign rollup, it's the community that decides the canonical fork choice rule. And that could be the case for any rollup. And that's the OP stack people have argued that optimism is a sovereign rollup. And if they say so, it is. So it's not really. So I kind of avoid saying that till now, because everyone means something different by it. But I think the main point of I guess like the main point of coining that term is basically, like, from the Celestia's perspective, we don't see rollups as a solution just to scale some layer 1. Like, we see rollups as cool things in their own right. And if you look at today, like, why are people deploying all these rollups? At least in the past year, developers aren't deploying rollups because they want to scale Ethereum. They're deploying rollups because it's a cool way to deploy stuff. Like, we see all these application-specific rollups. Developers don't care about scaling in layer 1 or Ethereum. They care about developing an application in the best way possible.
What are some of those applications?
These applications, are they in the room with us now?
Well, this is my main criticism. Like, look at Mustafa's shirt. It says, build whatever. I would, like, challenge that and say, like, come up with one thing that's worth building. Like, the reason that this whole tagline, like, build whatever, exists is because you thought about it, like, okay, what are some cool things to build? I don't fucking know. Build whatever. Just build something. Yeah. But it's already built, right? So I saw this picture of you the other day, like you were smoking a hookah, and like there was complete, like your eyes were completely blank, and you had this shirt on which said like build whatever. Like you're like reached the maximum nihilism of the roll-up centric roadmap. You don't know what people are supposed to build, so you're just like build whatever. It's the worst tagline I've heard in my entire life. Come up with one good thing to build, and tell people to build it.
I mean, it's cooler than the reason why we call it build whatever is because it's like whatever, you know. It's like, because you could have some cringy corporate tagline like build, you know, like what's Avalanche?
But your
Build
tagline is
with no
basically
limits.
like, I've given up. I don't know what you're supposed to build with this shit. We have so much block space. I don't know. Can someone just make use of this, please?
But isn't it crypto dick butts? That's what we need, right? Just post, fill the block space.
That's a cool thing. That's a cool thing.
Yeah, maybe you should hire us, and we'll come and we'll build some dick butts on your chain.
All right.
Oh, fuck.
There is simply nothing dumber than the monolithic versus modular debate right now. So we've probably seen many monolithic versus modular panels over the years. Mert, why is this not the correct framing of this question?
Okay.
I did not tell Mert what tweets
Deep
I was
breath,
going to be
deep
pulling for
breath.
this.
Yeah. What's the question?
Why is this the dumbest thing that we could be talking about right now?
Okay. Well, this is a roast, but I'll get maybe a bit more serious. The reason it's dumb is because actually what we just talked about, which is that the only thing that fundamentally matters is you need to build something that people want. And it doesn't matter, you know, how your cloud infrastructure looks or what it's called or, you know, the name of your database and all this shit. All that matters is like people want some block space, they want to access it, they want to write to it, they want to read from it. That's it. Now, saying that, you know, let's say you build on Solana and they're like, oh no, you know, that's a sin. You know, how dare you do this? How dare you go into the, you know, the high priest of the church? Build modular instead. It's like, okay, but first of all, the person's actually building something, which is a start, which doesn't happen that often. So let them build first, and then if there's something that fundamentally doesn't work or scale about it, then maybe they can kind of consider doing something else. But fundamentally, you kind of need to take that first step, which just doesn't happen. And maybe on a more technical level, I feel like the modular stuff has been, you know, called modular, but it's actually more like a distributed monolith if you actually play it out a bit more, which is to say that the parts are actually kind of tightly coupled, and you can't actually swap them out. Like if you have like an EVM thing or something and you want to change the execution environment, that's not an easy lift. I don't even know how the SVM works that well. And then people will say, okay, like Solana is monolithic, whatever. But then we just took a vote today, actually, and everybody agreed that Solana was modular. But nothing changed about the chain in that time since we called it monolithic at all. People just kind of deploy shit, usually it breaks the chain, and then totally says, no, it's not broken, whatever. And then Liam from Firedance will be like, no, it is broken. And then they'll just argue on Twitter for like 5 days. I'm like, okay, it doesn't work. And then we just iterate based on that. But fundamentally, nothing has actually changed about the architecture here. I always say that like integrated is just modular but enshrined to the core layer. And I just fundamentally think it doesn't matter the name of your cloud architecture. What matters is you work backwards from the problem, and some certain apps benefit more from shared state. So like price discovery, DeFi, et cetera. And some of them, like a game, for example, they don't give a shit about dog with hat, right? They don't need to access that liquidity. They can just go do whatever in their rollup.
What do you guys think about this? What are the advantages of building in a modular way?
I mean, the kind of original purpose of this monolithic versus modular debate is not even just purely because of the technical architecture, but because every cycle we see these new layer ones. Like in the first cycle we had Ethereum, the next cycle we had Tron, Cardano, and then this previous cycle had Solana and Avalanche. This cycle we have Aptos and Sui. So it's like every cycle, like there's these new layer ones that do an incremental improvement over the previous layer ones, and each layer one tries to replicate the entire ecosystem of an entire layer one. Like every layer one has some DEX, every layer one has an NFT app. And maybe Solana is the end game. I don't know, it could be. But the point of this was like, well, why don't we try to make it so that instead of having a negative sum ecosystem where everyone's fighting with this tribal layer ones trying to compete with each other, why don't you make it that it's possible to make incremental improvements without doing that? And yeah, it's not perfect. Like there is a criticism that there is too much modular infrastructure, you know. So there is, and Solana does have an app culture, so that is kind of like a good thing. But who knows if Solana is the final layer one? Everyone thinks they're the final layer one. So that's the kind of point of it. And the fact that there are L2s on Solana kind of proves that there is no final layer one.
Well, like, you know, there used to be more in L1s and whatnot, like incremental. I do agree they were mostly incremental until Solana. I might be a bit biased.
Right, you actually tweet about Solana a lot.
Yeah. I haven't noticed. But then the alternative is you have a bunch of L2s that are actually worse than the previous L2, or actually definitely worse than the L1. I mean, if you don't believe me, you can kind of just go to l2beat.com and just look and make a judgment after that. And so I think now the incentive is to launch chains instead of actually looking at any problems that exist and solving those problems.
So I did, like 2 days ago, I tweeted something very controversial, or like that sparked a lot of debate, and I asked the question why, like the original use case of crypto was, like everyone's talking about apps. You asked me, what apps can you build? And like the original purpose of crypto, the original app is payments. Like Bitcoin is peer-to-peer digital cash. So like we haven't even succeeded at the most basic use case, which I consider to be the hello world of what crypto should be. So it's like now we're talking about like doing more complex apps when we haven't even succeeded at payments. And there is this saying that there's too much infrastructure and not applications, but actually I don't think so. I think there isn't enough infrastructure because even Solana, I don't think even Solana is Visa scale. Like 2K TPS is the limit right now, right? So even Solana cannot like handle the world's payments. You know, so I thought we succeeded at this basic application with the payment, which is payments. And yeah, people are saying, well, that should be the last application, but I don't agree with that. I think payments should be like the goal, the basic application that everyone should be trying to get to.
But payments with what? Like
I see people buying coffee.
TIA token or stable coins, or like what are they supposed to pay?
Anything, just please.
Well, they're not going to pay in TIA or Bitcoin or Ethereum because they're
USDC. Even USDC.
Okay, so we'll build a modular chain for people to transfer bank assets.
Sure, but anything like if you can start anywhere, then that's better than nothing.
I'm just grilling. I actually agree with you that we should be like stable coins are like an order of magnitude better than banks, and we should be. I think that's maybe the only thing in crypto. Like after all of these mother, Iggy Azalea twerks and Daddy Coin, like the only thing like that remains is that stable coins are better than banks. And we should use them more. And I don't even think we have to do anything. They're spreading on their own. That's the only like chart that goes straight up. And we should build better infrastructure for it and make it happen. And then people will actually use their stable coins and lending applications to get yield and all that. So I kind of agree with you. We got to solve for payments first, and like no one's really doing that.
I don't think the bottleneck for payments is infrastructure. I think it's mostly regulation and actually the merchants giving a shit to accept the coins in the first place. People do this on Solana today. I'm actually the CEO of Helio, which is a payments network on Solana. And like, for example, when you pay for breakpoint tickets, you can use Helio and whatnot, and also which uses Helio's RPCs, by the way. But the problem is no one really gives a shit, right? They're like, okay, whatever. Why should I accept this coin? It's maybe going to go down in value.
Yeah,
maybe
but you give a shit, right? Would you rather like imagine that we didn't have to make like our investments through our bank accounts? Like you would prefer stablecoin though, right? Like yeah. So I think that's the fundamental principle. We prefer stablecoins over the banking industry. Let's just scale that intuition. And there's not that many regulatory hurdles. I can receive stablecoins from you. There's no one stopping me. Yeah, maybe businesses, there's small hurdles, but I don't think they're like insurmountable.
Well, it just needs to be like if you're okay. So these merchants need like a 10x reason to change and learn all these new systems and give a shit about okay, why should I accept this? What can I do with it? Why is it easier for me? Maybe it's like marginally lower take rates or something, but then they kind of maybe lose some of the insurance benefits and like the other kind of boomer security kind of model, which has been established for some time now. And so I don't think any infrastructure solution actually helps move payments forward as much as, first of all, giving people a reason to use it, giving them a reason to switch over. I don't think infrastructure is a bottleneck.
Global Venmo is a 10x improvement over local Venmo.
Like yes. Venmo is newer than Bitcoin. It's got 50 million users in the US. It's got 700 employees. Like the amount of capital that has been poured into blockchains is at least like 100x more than Venmo. There's at least like 20x as many people working on crypto infrastructure than Venmo. Probably, I'm guessing.
Okay, this is boring. Switch tracks.
I agree. All right.
You mentioned Venmo.
All right. I want to skip here and actually talk about what is the right way to build an
Are these
ecosystem.
just all my tweets?
These are all your tweets. These are all your tweets. All right, I want to talk about what the right way to build an ecosystem is, and maybe to editorialize a little bit in my position as roast master here. I think that one of the challenges with modularity is this idea of like fragmentation. This is what people have been talking about, especially in Ethereum land, but also in modular writ large. One of the advantages of modular is that you get to be much more specialized, but you also have this kind of fragmentation problem, both in terms of tech. You're fragmenting who has to take like a value add percentage, but you're also fragmenting narrative, and everything feels a little bit more disjointed, as opposed to something like Solana, a more integrated approach, maybe feels a little bit more cohesive, but maybe in the end state it's limited at scale. So, like, we're in the battle here to win hearts and minds, right? I don't think we want to be here, and maybe if there's not enough infrastructure now, I don't think we want to be here with the same group of people in 10 years. Everyone in this room is great, but I don't think we want this to be exactly the same in 10 years as it is right now. So what's the right way to build an ecosystem? How do we go out there and coordinate people to win hearts and minds? It wasn't really a roast. Now I'm just curious what you guys think.
I mean, I'm not one to dictate the right way to build anything. I think something I say pretty consistently is that you must explore all paths to maximize the probability of a crypto future, because one path might not work, but then there's a lot of other people in parallel innovating. So that's actually why I like modularity, because it allows people and capital to get into the space and kind of do their own thing. This particular tweet is more so about
Yes, Eric, good.
is that an Aperol?
This is, yeah.
It has alcohol.
It's got alcohol, that's all we need to know.
Okay.
That's the special cup.
Are we doing this?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well, we'll wait for everyone. Solidarity.
Yeah, I don't know the right way to build anything. Okay, we just.
All right, how do we say
first?
salud?
All
Do
right.
we cheers?
All right.
But whatever.
Cheers.
All right, cheers,
To Solana.
To the roll-up centric roadmap.
The Bitcoin's roll-up centric roadmap.
Yeah, I mean, the point here isn't to actually roast, or in that tweet at least, I mean, now the point is to roast modularity, but in that tweet it's not. It's more so to defend the notion that integrated chains can't innovate. Because there's like a common thing where it's like, okay, if you're an integrated chain, you must rely on Tolly's word, and then you must get permission so you can, whatever, build something. But we just released DK compression, and we just proved that wrong directly, right? We're now scaling Solana's storage costs and account allocation costs by like 6,000x. And we did not need to, raise a token and raise this $100 million round and whatnot. We just kind of did it. And then I posted on Twitter, and then of course, Adam Cochrane told me it's a Validium, therefore it must be a Validium. But fundamentally, it's just, there is no right way to build things. People will do kind of what they want. And as long as people are trying to push the mission forward, I think that's all that matters. I don't think you need to have some badge of alignment to actually ship something that actually is the only way to do something. You can kind of just build whatever.
But the point is that that permissionless innovation you just cited on Solana is modular, right? Like ZK compression is, in my opinion, still basically a rollup. And the problem with a monolithic chain is that there is only one roadmap. There can only be one roadmap. And in modular, there can be, you talked about like all these different, we have to explore as many paths as possible, right, to get to the end game. And that's what modular enables. We can, in parallel, be exploring every single possible path. Yeah, some of them suck. Some of these L2s, most of them are going to fail, right? It's about creative destruction. It's about, like, failure is, like, when people talk about entrepreneurship, it's like failure is actually a good thing because you learn that doesn't work. And that helps you find the thing that does work in the end.
Yeah, like I used to be a big believer in this, but then I actually tried to build an application. So this was on the Ethereum base layer. I had a project called Orbland, and we realized that people, it was like people can ask questions and get an answer from like an influencer, whatever. But the fees on the L1 like got high enough that we needed to migrate to an L2. And then we needed to make a choice. So which L2 are we going to migrate to? And then we were like, okay, so Arbitrum is a good, that's the best L2. Let's go over there.
You should have done a sovereign rollup.
Right. No, I'm not going to make it my own. I just want to deploy. Okay. Arbitrum, that might be where the liquidity is. So we were thinking about Arbitrum. And then, no, actually, like Friendtech is over at Base, and maybe there's where the social fi app. So maybe I should go over to Base, but Base is like a completely centralized chain. Maybe and actually maybe it's happening over. And Blast has talked about that they're going to be the L2 for NFTs. So they're going to build like a native bridge for. NFT. All Upstack L2s has this, but Blast was supposed to build a way for you to like bridge in NFTs like ERC721s. And then we just got stuck because there's all these L2s and it's really hard to pick one. And we just, so the company's now bankrupt and doesn't exist anymore because we basically got stuck in this like decision deadlock, like which fucking of these L2s are we gonna pick? So that's the so modularity, the roll-up centric roadmap. Like I feel like a fucking idiot because I did this exact same mistake with Bitcoin. That Lightning, I'll just buy inbound liquidity for all my payments, and then when I actually had to do, it's like, wait a minute, this sucks ass. And then with the roll-up centric roadmap, it's like, okay, now I got to deploy an application, but how do I choose which roll-up to build on? So I'm so we were actually looking into let's build Solana orbs because then we just have one decision, like, and everything works in the Solana ecosystem.
It's debatable.
So yeah, how do you guys respond to that? Like, what should I have done? Like, what did I do wrong?
Yeah, and let me just add one element here of there is a path dependency and a timing element to this, right? Where even if the end game might end up being something that's more modular and distributed, who's to say that we should go 100% modular right now? Like, how do we trade off this feeling of fragmentation and Eric's orb project going bankrupt because he has to decide between so many L2s? Maybe we need that once we actually have users and applications, and then we have many different chains. But for the amount of applications that we have today, maybe one chain is better because it actually eliminates choice. And what's to say that we couldn't just modularize later?
Yeah, I just want Colgate, like as a toothpaste. I don't want like 40 different ones and get stuck there and like one choice makes things easier. I
mean, for what it's worth, I don't actually there will absolutely be multiple chains and there will be multiple winners, and I don't think one chain could possibly, actually, totally might kill me for that. So I'm not going to say that. So Nick actually said, okay, Solana is modular, and I actually agree. But kind of the point here is it's always been that way. Nothing has changed. We just didn't say it on Twitter because it doesn't help anybody build things on Solana. It's like, build on Solana because it's modular. It's like, no, build on Solana because it's fast block times, large quorum, thing go fast. That's about it.
Twist. Solana's modular.
Yeah, but what were your what was your light nodes that you do like in Paris or an airplane or a toilet seat?
Well, I mean, that's actually a good point because you say that anyone can, Solana chains can move fast, and there is a team that wants to implement light nodes in Solana, but Solana doesn't want to make the changes on the core protocol to support that. And things like data blobs, like Eclipse wanted to use Solana as the A layer, but they couldn't because there's a Solana improvement proposal to add data blobs, and that's moving extremely slowly.
Well, you don't need the blobs to post the data. I mean, it's already cheap enough. Furthermore, like ZK compression is a good example of we didn't need anything from the High Council to ship something that actually scales the blockchain. And then there's actually a new client coming called Mithril, which basically takes out all the weird parts of like gossip and all those sorts of weird nerdy stuff. And you can just run it locally on whatever Nokia, BlackBerry. and you can verify these blocks at home without needing to, be a data center chain. And so I think a lot of the nuance gets lost by just saying monolithic, modular. I think it's more like engineers who want to help ship things to improve the state of the space.
So we're almost out of time here, but I would just be curious, like, if that's the end state, right, and what we should be building is that the infrastructure should meet the needs of the apps, then what are the apps saying today? Are we doing this for payments and merchants, and is that who we should be, like, what blockchain should be used for? Are we doing this for, WorldCoin or whichever chains are built that, like, what do the apps actually say today, and how should that dictate what the infra should look like?
Well, I think that's the question, right? Like, in fact, in the second last tweet where I said, like, the debate is so dumb, and the next reply is, like, what should actually matter is we need to keep looking for apps and then understand their problems. So if there's, like, an analogy, what we've currently done is, let's say there's, like, 10 doors with different keyholes. We just made a key at random and just try to just open all of them at the same time and just say, like, mass adoption or the next billion or something, and then just try to just basically punch the shit out of the door to make it fit. But what you need to do is you need to look at all the doors and the keyholes and then study them and then design something that uniquely can open them, right? And so you need to work backwards from the market and the problem space that exists and then see, like, okay, does a modular architecture here make sense, or can they kind of just be all on the shared state machine? Maybe they need composability, maybe they need Tolly's blog posts, I don't know, Tolly's shit posts or something, maybe some marketing help. And so that's kind of the fundamental question that's just, I think that's unanswered. I also run another company, Helium, does mobile networks, and that's like a pretty good example of something that's just like, it's just mobile networks, but then they can kind of use the same shared global state machine and then integrate with DeFi teams to kind of strengthen their product. So, like, deepen makes sense, but we don't really know the answer.
Oh, first of all, I just want to say I think we can keep it rolling if we want to.
All right, cool.
Use your discretion, Mike, as the MC.
Master here. All right.
But my response is, like, I do think obviously you should listen to user and developer needs, right? But you also can't predict in advance what those are. And so the best thing you can do is build infrastructure that covers as many possible potential bases as possible. And that's exactly what I think modularity does, right? It means that, like, we don't know what the killer apps of crypto are going to be. Payments is definitely going to be one of them. I think.
It was supposed to be Orbland, but it died at the it died at the altar of the roll-up centric roadmap.
Yeah, but I feel like in any, like, infrastructure application sort of dynamic.
Name 10 books. No, sorry. Name 10 apps. It's hard, right? It's hard. Orbland was one of them, and
well, let me just finish my point.
My point is, like,
and fewer. You are trying to build in anticipation of something in the future, but you can't know what that is. So the best thing you can do is build for as many potential futures as possible, and then the thing that sticks is the thing that happened to be right. But you can't know in advance, and that's why I think modularity is the only answer.
Well, I mean, I think Ethereum kind of did that, but then now there's, the Paradigm guys are like, wait a minute, actually, maybe this doesn't make sense. Do we shorten the block times? Do we make some other, client changes, whatever? And I think fundamentally a blockchain, there's certain things that are shared between them. And, like, as long as you're like, okay, we need to increase the number of full nodes in the quorum size, make it faster, make it cheap, make it such that a Bored Ape mint in some part of the state doesn't affect me buying a shitcoin somewhere else, local state markets, whatever. And that is, technically you can label that modular. I mean, all good software really is modular. But, the way I like thinking about it is, like, integrated is actually just modular, but enshrined to the core. So, yeah.
Maybe that's a really good way of framing the question is, what are the limits of the creative destruction, Nick, that you described? Like, when do we say, all right, we're just going to let the free market compete it out, and the best solution is going to win, versus does there need to be some steward of these ecosystems? Maybe it's the original founder who does blog posts or something like that, or the role of a foundation, right? But ultimately, there need to be some forces or structures that kind of set the guardrails. So do you see any limitation to the force of, like, creative destruction and capitalism and all these VC projects that just get to compete and win? Or should there be some sort of organizations that sets guardrails, maybe thinks about things like enshrining things at the base layer, dealing with interop, that type of thing?
I have no idea what you just said, but I have another point. I have one point to make. All right. And I think, like, fundamentally, we got to change the tagline from build whatever, to fucking build something.
I'll run that by our head of marketing and see what he says about that. But for some context, the source of build whatever is less cringy than build with no limits, or some corporate tagline like that, which is what like people like Avalanche have.
Okay, so we're less cringy than the cringiest.
So that's our main USP. That's for sure.
Okay. All right. That's a wrap, folks.
All right, you heard it from Eric. All right, guys, that's the end. Thank you all very much. Guys, give a big round of applause to our panelists here. Mert, thank you very much for allowing us to pull some of your previous work. And big round of applause to Celestia for putting all of this on. Guys, thank you for putting on a wonderful show.
Thanks, Mike.